We welcome you to Pioneer Baseball on the Pioneer Baseball Show with Pioneer coach Brandon Steele. The Tusculum Pioneers have advanced to the South Atlantic Conference Tournament this weekend in Kodak, Tennessee, at the home of the Smokies Ballpark, just off the exit there in Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. I'm Brian Staten, joined by Pioneer coach Brandon Steele. In order to get there, you had pretty much sealed your fate already a couple of weeks earlier, but coming into the weekend with the Lenoir-Rhyne Bears, leaking just a little bit of oil when we talked last. We had lost 4 of the last 5, and then coming into this one, some question marks still surrounding the pitching staff and who is going to be there because we're dropping guys now midweek and when Harbor goes down. But also a series that LR comes in, they've got to get a game so that they can get into the tournament, or at least attempt to get into the tournament as well. So a lot to play for this weekend. Tied for second is still up for grabs. A lot of things are right there in the conference standings, and making sure that you get into the double elimination portion. You needed 1 game. Series gets altered because of Mother Nature, and you throw Charles Hall on Saturday. Was there some thought thinking that there was going to be 2 games played Saturday, and the way it worked out there was only 1 game, that you may save Charles till later, or was there ever a thought in that?
No, if we were planning on hoping to have the opportunity to throw a doubleheader on Saturday, and with us playing on either Thursday or Friday, which was still unknown, we had to throw Charles on Saturday just to give him as much rest as possible. And that's really the reason why we scheduled the doubleheader, is try to get Sanders to go on Saturday as well, as opposed to having to go on Monday. So that puts him in short rest. But yeah, there's a lot of factors in play for both us and them, obviously, as far as seeding, finishing out the season, senior weekend, where we finish in the regular season, and then obviously Lenoir-Rhyne in terms of getting into the tournament. So there's a lot of things that could easily have distracted us, so we just focused on trying to play each pitch, win each game. And also the underlying lack of success we've had over senior week in the last couple of years. Yeah. So there's some skeletons in the closet we had to deal with, but we did a great job of overcoming it. We had 2 walk-off wins and 3 one-run wins at home. So I think that was a memorable weekend for our seniors, which is what you want. And to win all 3, obviously position ourselves in the top 4 to play in the double elimination part. And also, we tied 3rd. We were 1 game out. If we cleaned something up early in the year, we could have been tied 2nd. And with the injuries and the kind of stretches we had, obviously the 1-7 stretch early in the year, we weren't sure how we were playing. I'm proud of where we were able to, finish this year and what we were able to accomplish.
It was a great accomplishment for this team. We talked a little bit about it with the injuries and how they've been stricken. Slow starts for some guys offensively, but then the stable of fellows that have been preseason and getting some accolades preseason that came through in this weekend. A lot of things happened this weekend. Starting with Charles Hall. Let's just start there. Saturday, because you have to feel really good about it against a team that hasn't hit the ball very well this year in LR, and a pitching staff that hasn't kept teams from scoring or even hitting this year. Charles somewhat did his part. I don't think he had his best stuff, but his stuff was so good that it held them to just 2 runs, basically, until you were able to bring Mitch in.
Right, and that's the reason that you have to play the games, because on paper, if you look at our staff's ERA, our batting average, et cetera, on paper, we look like we're the favorites, but it turned out to be 3 one-run games. That's why you got to play, because there's the human element, and executing is also a huge part of it. And that's, part of our struggles has been lack of execution, whether it be offensively, defensively, or on the mound. And when we can execute at a high level, we're a very, very good team. When we don't, we're just like everybody else. We're going to falter and have some challenges to overcome. But this weekend, we played solid defense. Our pitching staff pitched well. We had some good appearances out of the bullpen, out of Mitch and Andrew. And then, Charles gave us a quality start. Zach gave us 5. He gave us a chance. Yep. So there's a lot of things that I was really happy with this weekend that hopefully we gain some momentum and confidence going into conference tournament.
That was funny. One of the last things you talked about heading into the series with LR, look, we cannot give them extra outs. And that's exactly, this game could have been 2-0, the first game of this series, and really set the tone. But we gave them an extra out. Get the strikeout, get the wild pitch, don't get the out at first, and extended. And the triple was the next at bat on a hit and run, and then they scored the 2 runs. It was very interesting, though, how your team responded. Charles was great. Like I said, I don't think he had his best stuff, 9 strikeouts in the win. But then we were able to respond, too. Some adversity. And again, I think one of the things where I get caught up in some people that come out, maybe a premature call by an official to blow the play dead, and then the wrong play made by the outfielder. He's supposed to have the ball inspected. Instead, he picks it right up and throws the ball in. Probably should have been 2-2 right there. A lot of adversity, a lot of conversation. What does it mean about your team to have Jarrell McDade then come up with 2 outs and or with the out and come up and get a big hit to drive in those 2 runs?
Well, it was huge because obviously that was a swing point in terms of the game for us to answer back. And there's no question that the umpires, they just didn't get the call correct. And that could have cost us the opportunity to score 2 runs, but we were able to get those guys across. So in hindsight, we still got the runs across, but we responded and we answered. And we didn't really give them any momentum. We took it right back. And Jarrell's a guy that, if you just look at his batting average, it doesn't tell the whole story as far as what he means to this team and this offense and how much of a factor he is as far as putting guys across the plate. He's one of our leading RBI guys. And he's hitting different spots in the order just depending on who we're trying to get in there that day. And the one thing about Jarrell is he's always going to play hard.
Yeah.
You never have to worry about the score, the weather, or anything else influencing him. He's going to go after it. And, he was huge for us, and also as far as at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Hit the ball hard and give us a chance to put a guy across the plate.
A lot of goose eggs. I think their pitching staff, they threw all their eggs in that first basket, no question. I thought Conroy had a great game. The starting pitcher, he was in command, and I thought it was a bit premature to pull him out, even though Dalton Martin was coming up.
Right.
I felt the lefty-lefty matchup was probably the right move there. And they did that. And I felt like their pitching staff really kept us off balance. What was it that they were doing? Was it our discipline, or was it some of the factors of what their pitching staff was doing?
Well, they have a very good pitching staff. Again, if you just look at Conroy, he's like a 70 ERA, but he pitched like a Friday starter in our league. And, that's typically what happens, our team in our ballpark is when everybody's best. And I thought their staff as a whole for the weekend really had a good plan. They attacked us. They threw the fastballs to both sides of the plate, threw slider, and they pitched out the fastball where some teams don't have the power arms that they do, and they'll pitch off the off-speed stuff. And, they're a really talented team. We were just able to out-execute them as a whole over the entire weekend. Now, we did have some spells off of the strikeout, reaching first and then scoring, hurt, but we were able to overcome that and play some pretty clean baseball the rest of the way. And then, on the flip side of that, we were able to walk it off on an error.
Yeah.
So they gave us 4 outs that inning, and it ended up costing them.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's where we'll just go right with that, because LR would score, Tusculum would answer. We go extra innings, LR would score, Tusculum had an answer. You'll see Jarrell McDade with and I was even saying it, we've already plated once, 1 run to tie the game here in the 12th. Just put the bat on the ball and see what happens. And again, in baseball, lots of times it's not that clean, right up the middle base hit. Sometimes it's a ball that just eats up a shortstop.
Right. And that's what we talk about all the time is we want to compete and win each pitch. And by putting the ball in play, you're forcing other teams to have to execute. There's not a whole lot of execution going on in the strikeout with guys on. You're making a right turn, and the catcher's throwing the ball back to the pitcher. So in this case, we were taking advantage of them having a defensive miscue.
It was a game in which LR had thought they had won, too. Could you imagine the emotion? They feel as if they've won the game because of a protest to get out of an inning, which they do. But then the game continues because the run was allowed to score. So, we continue, we play on, and obviously you see the end result for what's happened. This team that thought they had won, they thought we'd done enough to get in. We go to game 2, which didn't happen until Monday, and it was timely hitting there. I think you got great pitching, out of what you needed for game 2, and Sanders giving you the 5 great innings. But it was Nate Montgomery, and a guy that probably needed to come through and shine in a big moment, and comes through in a big way with the bases loaded.
Yeah, I mean, their guy was, at that point, that was the first hit of the game.
Yeah.
Again, we were taking advantage of the freebies in terms of the hit by pitch and the walk. We get the bases loaded, and Nate hits the first pitch fastball over the scoreboard for the first hit of the game to put us up 4-0. We've struggled at times with situational hitting, but for him to come through there and give us a 4-run lead to jump out was awesome, but also something that we needed as the game continued.
It was a game that would go down to, again, another 1-run game. Pioneers would actually lose the lead, then get it back. And at one point, I thought, when I was looking through some of the live stats, I thought, well, they're going to win this game with just 2 hits. And I think that was somewhat your concern.
I thought so too, yeah.
You feel like you have to do a little bit better in the hit department. What impressed you, though, about the team in your pitching staff? Because I think there was still some question mark there where he started LR started to get hot just a little bit, and how you were able to respond.
Yeah, I think our guys, even though there hadn't been successes, every time they've been out, and that's part of baseball. You're going to have days that you're good and days that you're not. It's going out there the right mindset and intent to go out there and really execute for your teammates, not for yourself. And with the midweek woes we've had from our pitching staff and the inconsistency out of the bullpen, we're still putting guys in situations hoping they'd be successful, and if they went out with confidence, they typically would. But obviously, an athlete's mind is sometimes fragile, and if something doesn't go the right way for them, it's easy for them to get distracted. And I think the fact that we've had so many balls bounce the wrong way or calls not go for us, that our guys are kind of becoming numb to it now, and they're able to just stay focused and execute the next pitch. And that's really what it took this weekend, because it was a back and forth, punch each other in the nose, and just keep on going.
Defensive gym as well, game 3. We'll show you that highlight, Sam Urban. And sometimes it's just anybody. A game scheduled for 7 that you see, we're going to the top of the 9th. What a huge play and a huge moment in this game.
Yeah, Sam has a flair for the dramatic defensively. Obviously, early in the year, what he did at Palm Beach Atlantic got a lot of retweets. And I think this catch was just as good, if not better. But obviously, in the context of the game, is more meaningful. You've got a tie ball game, potentially extra bases where the guy who's on may score, and we end up getting a double play with nobody on now. And that's just what he's able to bring to us. He's a senior. He's a tremendous base runner. He's a great defender, and hasn't had the opportunities I'm sure he wants, but he still goes in there and plays hard for us and gives us production like that.
Pioneers get the win thanks to that defensive gym and the extra innings. They sweep the Lenore Bears, and unfortunately for LR, it means they did not make the conference tournament. They were out. Pioneers were in as the top 4 already with their win on Saturday, which put them into the double elimination portion of the tournament. The 3 straight wins for the Pioneers as well forces them into a situation where I opened the show with they had lost 4 of their last 5. Well, guess what? They've won 4 of their last 5 as they head to the conference tournament, the double elimination, where they'll face the team they didn't face this year yet, Catawba, team that was finished number 3 in the South Atlantic Conference this year after a preseason pick number 1. We'll talk a little bit more about that conference tournament and our all-conference team when we return with more after this.
Ready, set, go to Johnson City Toyota, where new Tacomas start at $309 a month with 0 down. Drive the all-new RAV4 for $209 a month or save over $4,000 on Highlander. See more great deals at johnsoncitytoyota.com.
We welcome you back into Pioneer Baseball with Pioneer coach Brandon Steele. The Pioneers head to Kodak, Tennessee. It's been a nice place over the last few years to host the conference tournaments, kind of in our backyard, but also gives you a chance to get away, get the guys rallied 2 years ago, win the conference tournament, get into the NCAA tournament. Now, a 30-win season this year for this team, and it's I just don't think people understand the turmoil and the strife that you've gone through with your pitching staff and the injuries. Not that the guys haven't done the job, it's just guys that you expected to do the job that haven't been able to because of injuries this year. So to win 30 games, quite remarkable. Catawba goes 17-7 this year in the South Atlantic Conference. We're swept by Newberry. Newberry winning the conference tournament for the first time ever. The conference regular season first time ever. LMU finishing number 2. 2 deserving teams, 2 very good teams. And then there's Catawba and Tusculum, the 2 incumbents, somewhat the teams that have been there and fighting for the conference championships year in and year out. How meaningful is this first game? I mean, it's a double elimination game. You got Charles Hall, you're throwing him. You haven't seen Catawba yet this year, so this is the element of the unknown somewhat.
Well, it's the element of the unknown, but we know Catawba baseball. They're going to play defense at an extremely high level. Typically, they lead the league in defensive percentage. Their pitching staff's going to attack. They're not going to give us freebies, and they're going to play just solid, clean baseball. So regardless of who toes it up for them, we kind of know what we're going to get out of Catawba. And for us, it's just a matter of us focusing on executing what we need to execute as far as what our plan is, regardless of who our opponent is. And, it's been the same message all year is let's take care of the baseball. Let's win each pitch on offense, defense, and on the mound. And when we do those things, obviously we've had a chance to win a few games. But when we don't, we're usually on the other side of things. So very much trying to get our guys to understand that what we're going to accomplish this weekend is within our control, regardless of who we're playing. I don't think that there's anybody that we've seen this year that hasn't prepared us for the tournament. We've seen Turgeron from Wingate when he was really good. We've seen Ethan Elliott. We've seen really good arms. We've seen some good bullpen arms. Koski from Coker. So our guys have seen people to prepare them for the situation. In tournament settings, anything can happen. Which also makes it exciting. It's a great venue. We're still in the state of Tennessee, so a little bit of home cooking there. So we're excited about what we're about to embark on Friday, and the challenge of Catawba right out of the gate. I mean, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Right, and that's part of it. It's a good challenge for this Pioneer team, and they'll embark on that challenge on Friday of this week. Obviously, Carson Newman handling some of the video for that. So if you would like to participate in watching the Pilot Flying J South Atlantic Conference Tournament, you can do so by checking out the Carson Newman website there for that coverage. This year, a Pioneer team, the all-conference team, I think the guys that we're going to read off some names here, very well deserving of this. And it starts with Charles Hall. Becomes yet another long line of guys who have been Conference Pitcher of the Year. Established a new conference record, new national record, 22 strikeouts in a game this year against Queens. He did that. Led the league in strikeouts, the statistical champion in strikeouts per 9 innings at 15, which is a remarkably high number. A guy that just probably wasn't expected when recruited to come in here and do the things that he has done, to assume that role as number one. I'm not going to say it was a shocking or surprising result to be the pitcher of the year because of a lot of his numbers. But I think maybe if you even asked him, he would have thought, I make the team. Am I the pitcher of the year? I don't know. But what a great honor for Charles Hall.
Yeah, and, Charles, has really grown and developed on and off the field since he's been here. He's a competitive kid that regardless of what he's doing, he wants to compete at it. And that has, translated into his production on the field. And, there's obviously a lot of other pitchers in the league that had great years and were deserving of it. But the one thing is, after every game, people would talk about he was pretty good today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he didn't have his best stuff.
Yeah.
So he's capable of beating anybody when he's on. Again, it's going to require us to play some defense behind him and score some runs for him. But I think the matchup of him and Elliott, even though Ethan, did some work on our offense, I think Charles really showed some other people in the league what he was capable of. And because of that, he's getting a tremendous amount of pro interest and teams that are really wanting to follow him as far as what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And I'm hopeful he'll have the opportunity to continue that path and pitch in professional baseball and see where that leads. But, with the injuries of Chase McAllister, obviously early, and then Harbor going down, he's had to log a lot of innings for us to save the bullpen for game 2 and 3.
Right.
And he stepped up and done that for us.
Joining the long line of pitchers such as Brent Gable and Kevin Hammond, C.J. Hillier, who brought back a lot of memories as well. Craig Goodman, who is such a great pitcher for this Pioneer team, and Placido Torres, obviously. Charles Hall, the Conference Pitcher of the Year. Dalton Martin earning first-team All-Conference. I think that was somewhat of a no-brainer. Here's a guy that's every offensive category and statistical category. He comes up now, situational hitting. I think you'd like for him to even be even better, which is amazing to say. Right. He may not have led the league this year in batting average like he did last year, but doubles, walks, led the nation. Right.
And obviously he's been consistent from year 1 to year 3. And the one thing that's continued to get better is his patience at the plate, as his walks have continued to increase year to year. And also his slugging percentage has gone up year to year. He's a baseball player. He's a guy that hits. And, we're obviously very much counting on getting something out of him, whether it's walk, hit by pitch, or putting guys across the plate. And for him to have the year he did, he's very deserving of this.
Nate Montgomery earning all-conference nod as well. Second on the team in batting average, tied for the team lead in hits with 63. And the biggest hit somewhat of the weekend was the first hit of game number 2, the grand slam.
Yeah, and what Nate's been able to do for us in terms of leadership and being senior on this team, even though he's only a 2-year guy, has been extremely important to us being able to achieve what we have. He's catching Charles on Friday and getting beat up by breaking balls and fastball and blocking 60 pitches and then having to turn around and play 2 the next day. So for us to have someone like that that's in our program that can kind of burden the load that we need from an offensive standpoint, and also catch Charles on Friday, and also just the quality of person and competitor and what it means for him to be here. I'm really happy for him to win this.
657 putouts from behind the plate. First base as well puts him 7th on the conference list in just 2 years, so that's pretty impressive. Also pretty impressive this year. Bryson Ford stole 26 bases, earning an honorable mention nod this year. Third on the team in batting average, and I think if it really wasn't for him, middle of that season, he kind of holds the team together, getting some timely hits midseason.
Yeah, he's just a really competitive individual in terms of the baseball IQ and just the competitiveness. He wants to just beat you regardless of who it is and what's going on. And we've had to move him around a little bit because of some other personnel injuries. So having him at third and now short, having him either hit 2 or 3 in the lineup and really be a table setter for us. He's done a really, really good job. And also what he's been able to do from the base stealing standpoint has benefited guys like Nate Montgomery as far as getting some more pitches to hit.
Yeah.
So it's getting these guys to understand that, getting on and being a threat can also make life a little easier if you're the next guy hitting.
Final guy on this the honorable mention team was Jarrell McDade. Last year making the all-conference team as well. This year doing it in a somewhat different way. Didn't have that robust batting average, but his numbers were great. When you talk about 47 runs batted in from a guy that you've got down in the bottom of the lineup, you needed that production from down there in the bottom of that lineup. 18 of 21 in the stolen base department. And clutch. I think that's what I look at. I was looking over a lot of the stats. Of his 47 runs batted in, I think over 20 are with 2 outs. So a guy that comes up with the biggest moment and shines the brightest.
Yeah, and really, if you look, him and Nate may lead us in RBIs in conference play. So when the stakes are elevated, at some point he's going to make you pay. He may not go 4 for 4, but at some point in that game, Jarrell's going to get some guys across the plate and make you pay. And the way he plays the game, he does it the right way. He's obviously a base stealing threat. He's been a great defender for us and left, made some great throws for us and some big plays. And just watching him play is fun because he does it the right way.
Charles Hall, Conference Pitcher of the Year, and guys that are well deserving on that team. Charles, by the way, still leads the nation in strikeouts this year to this point at 137. Now, obviously there's guys that maybe get snubbed or whatever, but I think the guys that we just mentioned, well deserving. There are some guys as well that probably were the glue that made the all-team for Tusculum this year. Some guys that come up. Who were some guys that you looked down the line and said, you know what, that's a really good year that you had? Maybe they were a little bit surprising, or guys that you needed to step up and actually did step up for you in that moment?
Well, one that comes to mind would be Trey Hinton.
Yeah.
He's not your prototypical 4-5 guy offensively. But just the nature of the personnel we had and kind of what we were trying to do offensively. He was the glue, but he was also the wheels that kept the offense returning in terms of, of hitting in the middle of the order. The number of walks he had, I think, if you go walks per plate appearance, he's probably beaten Martin. Yeah. He was getting on base. If there's somebody in front of him, he's putting him in scoring position, making the next guy's job easier. We were able to put him at third, put him at first, which gave us some flexibility within our lineup offensively. And he just has a really high baseball IQ and is a really, really competitive kid. So, if you look at the Carson Newman series, huge hit. But what he's able to do by getting on base and keep on passing along the next guy. And if he goes down or he doesn't have the season that he has, then we got Bryson Ford at shortstop because Jaden went down, and who knows at third.
Right.
So he's been a big part of things for us this year. And then if you look at the bullpen, if Andrew and Mitch don't pitch the way they do, that's a very different year for us as well. Obviously, we knew Cuba was going to be good, and we knew, Noe and some of the other guys are going to pitch and rolls for us and give us a chance. But the number of innings that they've logged for us, going in there for 4, 5, 6 innings at a time, to be a huge bridge for us with our, problems on the starting side. Without those guys, it would have been a really different year.
Well, it's an incredible season. It's not over. I don't want to make it sound that way, but to get 30 wins with the pitching staff and the dire straits that they were in during the season due to the injuries and some of the guys starting off a little bit slower than they normally do offensively, incredible. Finishing fourth, tied for third, 4th seed in the tournament. So a T3, I think with what you dealt with, I think you would take that, right?
Well, I'd like to have finished first.
Yeah.
But based on the cards we were dealt, and injuries are part of it, everybody deals with them. I'm still extremely proud of this group and this team and what they did this year. I want to finish first next year again.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, you got to make the best of what you have at that time. And this is, a pretty good accomplishment for what we had with the group that we had and some of the adversity we went through.
It's a team that's not done. We'll talk about it next week. The conference tournament going on this weekend in Kodak, Tennessee. The Pioneers get to that 30-win plateau. They finish T3 in the South Atlantic Conference. They tie with the Catawba Indians. They'll take that 4 seed, take on Catawba early in the week. Then we'll see what happens after that. For all those associated with the program, Jim Miller, Dom Donnelly, Doug Jones doing a little color action this past weekend for the Pioneers as well. So that was really nice. Put Jim in the hot seat just a little bit. For Nick Forsberg, for this guy, Brandon Steele, I'm Brian Staten. And until next week, go Pioneers.